All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, or Kakadash, and the Heavenly Father, which your name is Yahweh, and his only begotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach Yahushai. Those are the true names in ancient Paleo Hebrew, Lashmanash, the Holy Tongue, and I say Barakathon to the elders and apostles, who are Akima Akwa, and I say Shalom. And this is a prophecy updates as of February 20th, 2026 on this Friday morning. And this is from the Arab Weekly. It's published 6 hours ago. It says U.S.-Iran exchange threats while Trump sets a 2-week ultimatum. Right, because you've been seeing the rising tensions that have been heating up between Iran and the United States. Without, I think Iran is unwilling to give up their enrichment of the nuclear uranium. And then I believe the Trump administration gave Iran a 2-week or 10-day deadline to come up with a deal. If not, they're going to have to potentially might do a nuclear strike against Iran. And then so that shows that the tensions have been heating up on and on back and forth between Iran and the United States. And Iran versus Israel Defense Forces War too. So that goes into that wars and rumors of wars. And then you had this latest news. It's Trump. Ever since he got back into office, he's been using these sweeping economical global tariffs on these nations, even including his allies as well too. And it says from the news air published 7 minutes ago, the U.S. Supreme Court rejects Trump's global tariffs. And I believe he spoke to the reporter, so he was talking about that's a disgrace. Because after he heard that news, it was that St. Mark the third chapter. It's the book of Mark, chapter 3, and verse 24. It says, and if a kingdom be divided, except the king cannot stand. Right, so might the kings be divided, except the king cannot stand. Psalm 64, verse 8. Even if Esau thinking everything goes his way, since he is the hammer, since he is the modern day hammer of the earth, but you have these nations and leaders in power are rising up against him. That's what we're seeing. And even Esau's own allies are rising up against him, like it says in Revelation 17, verse 16 as well too. Psalm 64, verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue. It says, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Right, just like you had I don't know if he was over there in London, you had this person. He used to be part of the, he used to probably be part of the royal family, I believe, over there in England. And then he got caught up in those e-files, if you know what I mean. And then I believe they arrested him, something like that, because he had supposedly had some connections to do with that. Hey, we started to see Esau has been revealed, his true character, he's being revealed, Despite the fact he do something good, despite the fact he's the hammer of the whole earth, at the same time, he's still being revealed. Hey, because that's the balance of that Father, showing that characteristics about Esau, Edom. Hey, from the beginning of time all the way to now. Psalm 64, verse 8. They shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all they see them shall flee away. Right? All they shall see them shall flee away. Hey, his tongue shall fall upon his own self, Esau, Edom. Revelation 17, in verse 16. Hey, you got E exposed to E. Hey, Revelation 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou saith upon the beast, they shall hate the whore. Right, that's what it seems to be, shall hate the whore. It says, shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and shall burn her with fire. Yep, that's going to occur, yep. Because that Father is going to use the nations to go against her. Was that Jeremiah, the 50th chapter? Right, so Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, Revelation 17th chapter, Revelation 18th chapter. Hey, Ezekiel, the book of Obadiah, hey, the Wadi Habashah. It says, his tongue shall fall upon themselves, and that's what we're seeing of Esau, Edom. But I just want to make a side note to that. So as it says again, the U.S. Supreme Court rejects Trump global tariffs. It says U.S. warplane jets. Is it U.S. scramble jets as warplanes detached near Alaska? Was this previously happened? Because I mean, what was that like a couple of years back? Because I remember that was like it was yesterday that the United States detached Russian ships and Chinese ships near the airspace. Because I remember this happened like a couple of years back, so it's kind of similar situation to that, and especially with the amending tensions that have been heating up between Russia and the United States. It says this is from the TRTworld.com. 1 minute read, and it reads: the U.S. scrambled jets as Russian warplanes detached near Alaska. It says the U.S. command says the warplanes entered its air defense zone but did not breach its country's sovereignty airspace. 2 hours ago, U.S. forces launched a fighter jet on Thursday after several Russian military aircrafts were detached near Alaska, according to the officials. Statements from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, the NORAD, said two Russian Tu-95 bombers and two Su-35 jets and A-50 surveillance aircraft entered the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. In response, the Norway deployed the F-16, F-35 jets along the KC-135 refueling tankers to shadow the Russian aircraft until they exit the area. Yep, wars and rumors of wars. Wonder if this recent. This must be recent. It says the Massacat Presidential Palace security forces confronted armed groups during clashes in front of the palace aid in Yemen of February 1926. Also, this was real recent. I thought it was pretty recent. Yep, so that goes to that Luke 21 verse 25. Disgressive nations will plexi rich one. It says 2 hours ago, the Yemen Presidential Leadership Council said on Friday that people were unalive and injured following a unrest describing attempts to target state institutions in the interim capital of Aden. A day after the newly formed government convened its first meeting there, in remarks to carried by the officials, Sabia news agencies, an unnamed source counsel said that the state leaders had monitored with deep regret what he said the accident and enticement and armed mobilizations by elements outside the law, circulating in its repeated attempts to attack public institutes. It says the source did not provide further details on the number of unalive or dead. Earlier, the ADN's security committee says that the armed groups has gathered near the Massaquoi presidential palace, if I pronounced that right, in the attempt to storm it, while also confronting security forces. According to the presidential source, security forces responded to the escalation with the maximum restraint, dispersing gatherings that sought to block roads and disrupt public order, while to safeguard the sovereign facilities in line with the law. He expressed regrets over the casualties, describing the events of coordinated escalations. The officials further accused the unnamed parties of financing army and enticing confrontations and public individuals and civilians clouding into the clashes with security personnel. Yep, so wars, almost wars. Wars of people were meant to say. Yep, this is Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth disgrace nations will perplex you with war. Why we seeing this blood moon? This blood moon is about to come up on March the 3rd. And we're seeing these disgressive nations that we're seeing in the earth today that Yahushua spoke about. It says, there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth disgressive nations will perplex you with war. Right, so we're seeing disgressive nations will perplex you with war, as it says again. Unrest near the presidential palace in Yemen as Aden leaves casualties at the new government convenes. It says the Yemen presidential sources say security forces act in maximum restraint. So these are what you call uproars from people in the world. It's the book of Jeremiah 51 and verse 46. It says, "Thee shall heart faint a fifth rumor that shall be heard in the land, and a rumor shall come forth 1 year. After that, another year shall come a rumor. Violence land rule against rule." Right, so violence land rule against rule. That's what we're seeing. Ecclesiasticus 3 verse 1, "To everything there is a season and a time, every purpose of heaven." Watch the these other modern day time season, every purpose of heaven. Watch which is modern day biblical science and signs of times, and the increase and uptick of war, evil, and pestilence, as we see in our world today. Drop down to verse 7. Ecclesiasticus 3 verse 7 reads, it says, "In that time to reign, and a time to sow, and that time to be silent, and time to speak." Right, so we're in a time of prophecies are speaking, biblical sons speaking, prophecies are speaking on a day-to-day basis. So we're definitely are in those modern day times and seasons. Ecclesiasticus 3 verse 8, "In a time to love, and a time HATE, a time of war, a time of peace." For us, we still live in a time of war, and we still live in a time of HATE. Because that was that Ecclesiasticus 1 verse 9, "There is no new thing under the sun." And this is the book of St. Mark chapter 3 and verse 24. "And if a kingdom be divided itself, the kingdom not stand." Right, so just like I brought up that Jeremiah 51 verse 46, you have modern day ruler against modern day ruler. You got modern day nations against modern day nations, modern day ruler against modern rulers. So if a kingdom be divided itself, the kingdom not stand. Right, because you have political wars, economical wars, trade wars, tariff wars, and tensions between these different nations, different kingdoms, which is going to continue to increase, despite the fact they're trying to have some progress to ease the tensions, but the tensions are still going to be there between these nations, even though it's been up and down. But we're going to see more increasing signs of that on a day-to-day basis. Verse 25, "And if a house be divided, itself the house cannot stand." Right, so if a house be divided, the house cannot stand. We definitely seeing the nation of Edom, the kingdom of Edom, the nation of Edom, the house of Edom is being divided as well too. And that's what we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. Verse 26, "And if Satan rise against itself, be divided, cannot stand but have an end." Right, so if Satan rise against itself, be divided, cannot stand but have an end. That's what we're seeing. It says Washington Post, "Trump talks peace in the Middle East as the U.S. ready for war." Yeah, that's what you call double-minded right there. Was that book of James 1 and verse 8. And double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. What's that? Psalms the 51st chapter. His words is moving the blood of wolves in his heart. Hey, that's the characteristic of Esau Edom, a reprobate, double-minded. Read that again. Yeah, Ecclesiasticus 3 verse 8. It says, "In that time to love, in that time." Yep, it says, "A time to love, and a time HATE, and a time war, time peace." A time of war. Read that news article again. Yep, it says Trump talks peace in the Middle East. Right, because I think they had that border peace meeting yesterday. I think Trump administration they gathered 10 million, and the other countries gathered 17 million of this rebuilding over there in the Gaza Strip, throughout the Middle East over there. But at the same time, you still got nations are getting prepared for war still over there in the area. Yep, this is another. Yep, that First Thessalonians, because the Apostle Paul mentioned. Got First Thessalonians, and on top of that, there's no peace to the wicked. Thus said the Heavenly Father, how. First Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3, "For when they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon them as if every child shall not escape. Right, so you got all these nations funding all this money. They're trying to rebuild back, trying to ease the tensions, but the tensions are still going to be there between these nations. So as I mentioned again, you're going to have these economical wars, you're going to have these nuclear wars, you're going to have trade wars, political wars, geopolitical wars. All these times still going to continue to increase. It says Sweden approves a 1.2 billion Ukraine military aid package, lifting total support to 9.63 billion. Right, while the Russia-Ukraine situation is actually heating up on a day-to-day basis. It said CBS News. It says U.S. and UK to discuss the use of British base as Iran balks of Trump's threats. Yep, wars, rumors of wars. Because and that makes sense as well too. Because I seen that news article earlier this morning when I woke up. Because at first UK was saying that they was going to not have the United States use their military bases just in the case of an attack occurred from Iran. Now, seem like they kind of changed it, man. Now they are in discussions of using British base as Iran talks to local ups against Trump threats. So these tensions between Iran and the United States Army is going to heat up despite these talks. So that's another sign of wars, rumors, wars heating up on a day-to-day basis. It says, this is from the NPR. It says the second U.S. carrier nears the Middle East as Trump pressures Iran to make a deal. Because you know Iran are not going to let up. And plus, if they don't get they embark another deal, so that shows that it's going to be more difficult to have a deal between both sides. Because it's Iran, they're not going to give up their nuclear enrichment. And then there was a report saying that Iran they didn't receive any saying that they didn't receive any proposal about a zero uranium policy proposal. So Iran, either way it goes, Iran is not going to get that their nuclear capability. They're not going to give up their uranium enrichment capability. So that shows that the tensions are really going to heat up between, especially Iran is defense force, and then Iran, United States armies as militaries, forces from the United States being built up over there, and then Iran building up their military faces right along the pro-Iranian groups. So these wars, rumors of wars, are definitely heating up between these nations. It says U.S. military buildup near Iran reaches a critical level, and Trump plans for Gaza. Yeah, wars, rumors of wars. This is the prophet Joel, chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near and come up. Right, so let all the men of war draw near and come up as they being guided up over there in Western Asia, over there in the Middle East. So you're still going to have a high tension heating up over there in the area. Over there in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Palestine, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, West Bank, Palestine territory. Over there in the Mediterranean Sea, over there in the Red Sea, over there in the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, the Arabian Sea. So you're still going to have high tensions and more military building up from the opposing side, especially between the United States and Iran and Iran is defense force and their allies. All is going to lead up to the Third World War, and that's what we see. despite the fact, despite the fact, uh, despite the fact they having nuclear talks trying to ease the tensions, but the tensions are still there. It's ramping up and heating up on a day-to-day basis. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, which is the arms of the other nations. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Right, so that all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Joel chapter 3, verse 10, beat your plowshares and the swords and the pony hills and the spears and let the weak such grown. Right, just like a couple of days ago, Iran, they tested one of their nuclear missiles. They did their nuclear exercise drills over there in the Persian Gulf, over there in Hamas, while the United States having military building up near over there in that region. And then you got the proxy groups and the pro-Iranian groups rise up against the Israel Defense Force. So tensions are definitely heating up over there in the area, especially over there in Syria. And this is Revelations 9 and verse 12. It says, the one will pass, behold, there come two woes more thereafter. Revelations 11, verse 14. The second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. Right, so the second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. Armageddon, Armageddon 1. This is Jeremiah chapter 28 and verse 8. The prophets that have before thee and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and great kingdoms of war, evil, and the pestilence. So these war, evil, and the pestilence is only going to continue to increase. Jeremiah 28, verse 9. The prophet was prophesied of peace when the word of the prophet should come to pass. Then should the prophet know that Yahweh should be sent. Right, because these prophecies, they still going to come to pass and fulfill. And just like the third war's war, that's still going to come to pass and fulfill. Because we know the Heavenly Father's words doesn't go void. Now we understand there might be times where it might be peace, might be love, HATE and war, because we're in those times, because everything is a balance and decide to have to fight it out. But at the end of the day, the words of Heavenly Father doesn't go void. Just like these prophecies doesn't go void, the words of Heavenly Father doesn't go void. So with that, this was just a prophecy updates as of February the 19th, 2026. Yep. February 9th, February 20th, 2026, I meant to say. As I mentioned again, this is a prophecy updates, February 20th, 2026 on this Friday morning. So hopefully this was edifying. And with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai B'Hashem, Wakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, B'Hashem, in the name of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the lost the Holy Tongue. And I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwa. Till next time, I say Shalom.